All right, welcome back everybody. This is going to be our third installment of the introductory lessons here in Adobe Illustrator. We played with shape tools and gradients and the selection and direct selection arrows. What we're going to do today is we're going to take the type tool and we're going to get to know how that works. We're going to type with our name. Now initially when I click, it's going to give me a little bit of Latin, lorem ipsum. If you were to make a large box, it will fill it with a bunch of Latin, which I cannot really decipher, but that's okay. It's really just kind of showing you a preview of what your letters will look like. So I'm going to highlight with the cursor and choose a size that is much larger than 12 points. You're not limited to 72. That's just the largest that it shows you in the drop-down window. If you highlight 72 and type 150 and hit enter, it will give you 150 points. Now, lorem ipsum is not what we want to do. We want to type our name. So I'm going to go ahead and do Mr. Hatchl, nice and big. Now, I'm going to shift gears from working with the type tool. I'm going back to the selection tool because I want to be able to move this down. I also can click and drag to resize this if I need to. I'm going to try out some different fonts for my name. I want to find some fonts that have a little bit of personality that I might like. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down and I'm going to click and drag like 5 copies of my name, and I'll try a different font, size, and color on each one. So to start off, I've got Myriad Pro. It's in regular mode. Maybe I'll just look at some of the other options. Usually there's a bold attached to it. We are all pretty familiar with Arial, and there is like a narrow bold italic. All right, I'll change to that. Hit my drop-down menu. One that I really like is called Impact. Now it's previewing for me what I have in all of these. I really like Impact because it's fairly thick. Okay, so if I'm going to make a clipping mask or something, I want to show some pictures inside of there. It gives me a lot of space to do so. Now there's other types of fonts that are available. There are some that are somewhat like script. If I scroll down, you can see Blackadder. That one's fairly interesting, although it's a little rough looking. But they have others that look very much like cursive handwriting, and most of those will have the word script somewhere in the title. So if I scroll down, let's see if we find it. Here's another Kunstler script versus Edwardian script. Okay, now again, those have their places, but I'm not really looking to use those right now for mine. Ooh, Broadway is nice and big. 144 is way too much. I might ask for just 100 point for Broadway, since not all of the fonts have the same scaling. They all will scale up and down however much you want them to, but they don't all scale at the same rate. So Show Card Gothic, also another big one. If I do 120, delete the remainder of that. All right. But again, you can also just use the selection arrow and you can click and drag to resize what you have. Now, one of the fun things to do with your type is understand that you can adjust the spacing between your letters. If I ask for, I believe I need the character window, and I don't see it popping up here. So what I'm going to do is go to Window, and all the possible windows I could open up should be under here. I'm going to find Character. Ooh, they've changed. The name used to be Character. Now it's under the type heading, and then you find Character. Conveniently enough, though, this is meant for modifying your type. So the keyboard shortcut to open the character window is Control-T. All right. And what's interesting about that is you can control the spacing between paragraphs and also between the letters. So if you want your letters very spaced out, you can add a kerning rate of 200 or minus 100. All right. So maybe I'll space them out, and then I'll bring them back together one at a time. Okay. So if I use my type tool and I click between any two letters, I can hold down the the Alt key, and I can adjust the spacing just between those two letters. So I can tuck them in, have them overlap. So I am going to have my letters overlap just a bit. Now right now all my letters are black, so they're kind of blending one into the other. But if I press the letter D after hitting the selection tool, I can get the default fill and stroke. Then it really allows you to see the overlap where those letters are touching. Okay. So what I'm going to want to do, regardless of the typefaces I choose to use. In fact, maybe I want to shrink these down out of the way, just keep them in reserve in case I want to use them later. If you find one that you don't want to keep, select it with the black selection arrow and press delete. Now I'm going to make some modifications to this one that I had overlap. I'm going to hold the Alt key and click and drag it down. I'm going to go ahead and apply a new color. Maybe I'll even apply a gradient to it. Now the gradients don't work right now because the type can still be edited. In order to get the gradients to show up, what I have to do is make a subtle change to the type called creating outlines. Now I can go to type and I can tell it to create outlines. I can remember this keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-O, or I can right click and I should get a chance to create outlines right from there. And I think this is really the best way to go about it. Right clicking usually will open up some hidden features in the program, so it's often worth testing just to see. So I'm going to create outlines. So I have a blue version of this text, but now I can attach a gradient to it. And that gradient can be going at an angle. I can press the letter G and it's got an individual gradient going through each letter, or I can click and drag and apply the gradient through the entire set of letters all as one. Now we're going to do a couple more fun things with this version of the name, but again I'm going to click and drag an extra copy so that I have something to play with in case I mess something up. Now what we're going to do is use the white arrow here to make some adjustments to my type. I can click individual corners and make the letters look kind of pointy. I don't know if I like that style, but I think I'll go for it at least on a couple of letters. Or you can grab entire shapes and move them. You can grab individual points or entire lines and customize them. Okay, so that's a good thing to know. So when I have my letters the way that I want them, alright, I'm going to use the black arrow, the selection tool, and that will still select them as a group. Okay, so at this point I've got these cool letters, but they're overlapping. I want to do a special trick that's going to basically merge all the shapes that are touching together, and I really like the end result when this happens. So I am going to go to Window and I'm going to ask for the Pathfinder window. Now this is a shortcut that really doesn't make any sense at all, but it can be a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the Pathfinder, and there's a bunch of different shape modes that will pop up. The one that we want to use is Unite. So watch what happens when we click this. What's going to happen is we're going to lose our stroke weight, and in fact I'm going to make the stroke weight really big and bold so you can see it. It's showing us very obviously where the letters are overlapping, but when we press Unite, those overlaps go away. Okay, now I can reapply my gradient, I can change the angle of it, press G and reapply it all at one time. But so you can see the difference there between the version that has the stroke weight where the letters are overlapping versus where they were overlapping, but then we united them. Okay, so this is the end goal. I want you guys to have a copy of your name where you've used the kerning adjustment up here to adjust the spacing between the letters, and then the selection and direct selection arrows to customize the way the letters look. And you can still play with it after you're done. There is certainly no rule against that. Okay, so then we want to use the Pathfinder-Unite to get that final kind of interconnected look to what we have. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control-S to save my file, and I do recommend, especially since we're going to be moving from computer to computer, classroom to classroom, we'll call this type tool name. Alright, save to the cloud. I like the fact that it follows you guys home or here, and I'm going to export locally. I'm doing it on my desktop, but you guys could do it on your H drive or your pictures or downloads folder, and I will tell it to use the artboards. Alright, so my image has all the extra bits of name. Here's the deal, if you don't want that, maybe you tucked yours off to the side and you really just want to have a nice big version of your final united name as your image, great. We can do export as And just as long as you click Use Artboards, it will limit the JPEG to only showing what's inside the white artboard box. Artboards, go. So let's take a look at the 2 JPEGs that we made, and we'll compare them. Okay, 1 and 2. So this is the first one versus the second one. All right. So you could take this image, copy and paste it into your digital sketchbook, and you'll be good to go.